Hello, everyone, and welcome. Yes, we are here. It is Rivka Malka Perlman, and I brought you two of my most favorite people, Deborah Barusan, my sister,
Hey.
and Bención Klatzko, my brother.
Hi, everyone.
So we have been putting our heads together. What is happening, folks? It's coronavirus around the world, a shared human experience. And one thing that is so striking is that families are together in an entirely new way. Whereas before, couples might have gone off to work and come home, seen each other at night, maybe started the day together for 5 minutes. Now, families are spending hours and hours and hours together. And we know that the foundation of the world is shalom, peace. And so with all of the sadness for the people who are hurting and who are sick, and we wish them every blessing for a complete recovery, and with all of the pain of people who have to close down their businesses, may Hashem provide for them in every way. We also have another dynamic and another opportunity going on, and that is for families to come together and for marriages to improve in kind of a rocket ship way. It's almost like you're going to one of these retreats, only it's in your home and it's the two of you. And it's either going to be horrible days or wonderful days. And it feels clear to us that what Hashem would want for all of us is for this to actually help improve our relationships. And so we put our heads together, and what we would like to do is to bring you a half hour every day of Shalom Bayis talk. Shalom Bayis in Hebrew, literally, the English translation means peace in the home. It's the term for happy marriage, harmony in your marriage, and also Shalom Bayis is your whole family, because how you are with your spouse completely affects your children on every level, and how much more so when you're at home all day together, and how much more so if you get corona and you're not, I hope you don't, but if you're not feeling well and tensions can run high, hello, my friends, we need this very, very badly right now. So in a moment, I'm going to have Deborah and Bención talk. Bención, I will call him Bención. You may call him Rabbi Klatzko, as he is known around the world. And Deborah is a Rebbitzin and a leader, and I still call her Deborah, and you may call her Deborah or Mrs. Brusan or the world's greatest marriage counselor, whatever feels right to you. And before we begin, I want to say two things. A technical thing, we're on Zoom, so is the rest of the world, which means there's a pretty good chance that Zoom will cut out in the middle, suddenly my face will disappear, suddenly Rabbi Klatzko's face will disappear. That's not the end of our broadcast. That means it's Corona time, and we're going to wing it, and we're going to wait 2 seconds, and we're going to come back on, and we're going to grin and bear it. Please do that with us. Not a lack of professionalism. It's just, it's time. Everyone is hungry for inspiration, so we're all on Zoom. The second thing is a prayer that there's a lot of good efforts in the world right now, and all of them matter. And it's our belief that amongst all of the good efforts, the effort towards Shalom Bayis and building a good marriage is one of the things that matters the most, and it's one of the things that hurts people the most. And we have a deep, deep desire to give you practical, not only inspirational, but super practical, super wise, I can say that because they're my siblings and I know them very well, super wise advice and perspectives that will really, really make a difference to you and have some fun along with it. So the second thing is we want to have a prayer that our efforts should be received in heaven for the good of the entire world. And let's begin. So for those of you who don't know Rabbi Klatzko, he is the founder of the world's largest Jewish social network. Listen to that sentence. How does one man build the world's largest Jewish social network? With a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. You may join it. It is called Shabbat.com. You may find your soulmate there, find a place for Shabbos, find some help, find a job, get inspiration, look at their feed. Shabbat.com is just one of the things that Rabbi Klatzko does. Together, he and his wife host thousands of people for Shabbos, and he counsels couples regularly. And so many people have gotten married through him, and afterwards, when they're figuring out how to be married, they come back to him, and he helps them out unbelievably. Rabbi Klatzko, I want to call on you in a second. I just want to introduce Deborah Brusan. Deborah has been teaching Shalom Bayis and counseling couples together with her husband for 30 years. She has seen it all. You can't surprise her. You can't stump her. You can't be embarrassed in front of her. She will always tell you like it is, and she's got the answers that you need. You can follow up with her at jewishmarriagecounselor@gmail.com. We're here for you. That's what we're doing. We're here to share and teach, and we're going to benefit in the process because after we get off the Zoom, we go back to our spouses. Okay, Rabbi Klatsko, you're up.
Thank you so much, Rivka Malka. In Hebrew, we say davar be'ito matov, which means something in its proper time is glorious. It's a glorious thing to identify something that needs strengthening, and there's an opportune moment to strengthen it and to focus on it and to improve it. And marriage certainly is number one in terms of our relationships, in terms of our emotional well-being, our mental well-being. When we're in a marriage and that marriage is a good marriage, we feel good. And that goodness, those good vibes project to our spouse, to our children, to our friends, and to our own health. And God forbid when our marriage is not going well, and we don't feel like it's the wedding day anymore. It's feeling a little bit on the stale side, or maybe we're at each other's throat, so we're biting or we're criticizing. All of a sudden, we may be living in the same room, the same house, the same bedroom, but we're not feeling good. As a matter of fact, we're feeling a little bit uncomfortable. And that uncomfortableness has a way of spreading to our children and our emotional and even physical health. So with this coronavirus forcing us to look in the mirrors and say, I have to be with my spouse now for 24/7, and they have to see me, and they have to see me for who I really am. And maybe this is the one point I'll mention right now. We all have our pros, our good side, our positives, and then we all have those things that we are less proud of. Maybe they're habits, maybe we're a little bit lazy, maybe there are things that we struggle with. And in a way, and it's a good thing, we shield our spouses from them as we try to work on them internally. And that's a healthy thing. We don't have to spill everything to our spouse. It's a sickness that people have, that they feel like they have to confess. So there are things that we're allowed to personally struggle with and work on, and without getting our spouses involved. The problem is that many of those things, when you are in close proximity all the time, they become a little bit exposed, because you can't hide at work. You can't work on it in private because there no longer is that privacy. So if there's a time to really work on oneself and to understand one's spouse better than perhaps you have in the past, this is that opportunity. So let's keep it real. Let's keep it honest. Let's look in the mirror and say, you know what, this is something that I want to work on, because I want my marriage to be honest. I want my spouse to know really where I'm holding, but I also want to improve, and I want my spouse to be proud of me. I want them to look at me and say, wow, well, the more I get to know them, the more proud I am of them. Look at how they fight for what's right. Look at the values that they have, even in this difficult situation. So I think it's a wonderful time to have this conference, to have this video program that my awesome sister Rivka Malka and Devorah are joining and participating and initiating. And I'm honored to be in their presence. And I hope, from the male point of view, I'll be able to offer maybe our own, the frailty of the husband, our own insecurities, what we want or what we need in this difficult time. And then even after it passes, what it is that we want to make our marriage even better than it was before this all began.
Thank you. What a great introduction. Deborah, this is just our teaser. What do you want to say?
You're still recording.
I'm recording, yeah. I'm just opening. I'm just opening the floor to you. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Francione. That was awesome. This is actually a really unique opportunity. Unfortunately, for the whole world, but specifically now, unfortunately, a lot of these things are projected towards the women, how the woman sets up her home, how the woman is the one who is really the foundation of the home. And here we have this amazing, unique perspective from a man towards the husbands at a time where they're actually able to not be too busy to listen and have the opportunity to implement. And so I think it's a real gift that you're giving us. Thank you, Rabbi Klatsko. Thank you, Rivka Malka. This was a wonderful idea. I think what I most want to share with you all is, you know, we always learn that our relationship with our spouses are practice for our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I say it all the time because I think it's the most important thing we need to understand. You know, our home is our Beis HaMikdash Ma'at.
Can we translate everything?
It is our personal Beit HaMikdash, our personal temple. And it is so beautiful. This is a time where there's so much on our minds, and we know we have to turn in prayer to Hashem. And we have to ask him, what's the message we're getting in this whole corona? What do I need to gain while I'm here? Well, what's the whole message we're getting in our relationship with our husbands? Is it just the fact that we're more vulnerable now for our spouses to see our imperfections? Or is it also an incredible opportunity to build and to grow, to take something that maybe needed strengthening, and now we have the time and opportunity and energy to put into it? Maybe we're always too busy and there was that child that needed a little bit of extra. Here we have the opportunity. It's not like your husband's coming home and say, go spend time with the kids. It's really important to do that right now, right? He doesn't have to, he's not gonna have to, or you're not gonna have to take a slice of time and make sure to make that. We're gonna figure out how to build it into your day so that your entire day is a work in progress of bringing peace into your home, between husband and wife, between parents and children, looking at realistic expectations, looking at your spouse for what they are, and loving the imperfections as well as the perfections, because the imperfections in each other is what makes you the perfect couple. And we're going to explore that and learn practical tips, as Rivka Malka said, in bringing peace into your home so that you come out of this enhanced spiritually, hopefully healthy physically, and with a very strong, healthy marriage that just continues to grow from there. So thank you for joining us on this journey, everyone.
Can I interject over here?
Must.
Okay, great. I think if for those of you that are watching and are interested, a little exercise, ask yourself the following question. If you had to rate your marriage and your relationship with your spouse right now from 1 to 10, what would you give it? Right now, your connection, your honesty, your empathy, what would you give it from 1 to 10? And let's just say right now that you would give it a 6. Generally good things. Sometimes there are bumps in the road, there are difficulties, you understand each other mostly, but you also keep out of each other's way. Let's say you would give it a 6. Our goal is to push it up to an 8. And that's what makes this a very practical exercise, watching and being part of what we're trying to do here. We want you to up that number, whatever it is now. If it's an 8, let's make it a 9. Maybe even, dare we say, a 10. We want to move it up, and we can't give up hope that we're not able to move up that number. I think we can, and we have to have a desire to, because our lives and the lives of our spouses will be better if we can move that number up 1, 2, 3 notches. And that's what makes this endeavor incredibly worthwhile.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to end with 2 things. First of all, if you want to get a head start on marriage classes, here's a fun thing you can do. Go to rivkamalka.com. Once upon a time, I made a marriage series. When my passion for good marriages for Shalom Bayis grew and grew and grew, I said, I am not selling this series. Anyone who wants to work on their marriage must have it. And so if you go on the website and just buy it with the coupon code LOVE, capital LOVE, it is yours. It is short, it's a lot of fun, and I think it's very practical, very helpful, God willing. There's 2 classes towards the end, a woman-to-woman talk and a talk connected to intimacy, more geared towards women, but it's a whole new world right now where everyone is learning. So if you think it can help your marriage, just go there. The second thing is I want to end off with a story. It's a short story, but here it goes. Once upon a time, a long time ago, I got married. And my husband, a couple months in, would come into the kitchen and he would say this wonderful thing. He would say, I'm really hungry. I could use some food right now. And I would look at him and I would be like, okay, that's great. That was the end of the conversation. And then he would leave the kitchen, come back in, open the fridge, look inside, look around the kitchen and say, I'm really hungry. I could use some food right now. And I'd say, okay, that's great. You know, and I could have like literally been eating a bowl of cereal at the same time. So little background, my father, he should be well. He was an emergency doctor for years. So he would be up all night in the emergency room, come home, dive in, he would pray in the morning, he would learn Torah in the morning, then he'd sit down for his meal. And his meal at 11 o'clock was a whole production. So what was the vision that I always saw at 11 o'clock or whatever time it was? My father opening the refrigerator. We're famous for our condiments. And he's pouring mustard and mayonnaise, right? Our father. And he's putting everything on the sandwich and he's whistling to himself and he's slicing tomatoes. And it's a feast fit for a king. And what do you know? The king himself made the feast. So I'm thinking after a few times of my husband saying, I'm hungry, I could really use some food. I'm thinking, it begins to turn in my mind in a very unpleasant voice. Why aren't you making yourself some food? I made myself some food. Why aren't you making yourself some food? This is my early thought. Don't worry, we're married a quarter of a century now. We've changed thoughts, but that is the point of the story. Anyway, this started to become like an irritant in my mind. Why doesn't he, if he would only say, please could you make me an egg, surely I would be a good wife and I would make an egg. Instead, I'm supposed to pick up this cue and magically produce breakfast. Okay, fast forward many, many years. I am standing before an audience of about 300 women, and it was actually a funny beginning. I thought, what talk am I gonna give them? And my brother, Rabbi Klatsko, taught me something very important. He said, if you're only gonna give one talk to people, it should be that Judaism is a relationship, not a religion talk. So I said, I'm going to give my brother's famous talk about Judaism as a relationship. I stood before these 300 women in their first ever Hasidic conference. And I said, what is Judaism? What is Yiddishkeit? And this woman stands up and she says, it's a relationship. And you're right. It's a relationship with Hashem. I was like, okay. So yes, it's a relationship. Let's talk about relationships. And we ended up talking about marriage. So yes, thank you, Vincia. So in this marriage talk, I said all kinds of things, but the story with the egg, which I will tell you the end of, is what made it into being a magazine. The whole quote of everything was the story with the egg. Because what ended up happening is that at some point, it could be I said even to my mother-in-law, I don't know to who, I said something like, I just don't understand why he doesn't want to make breakfast, or why is he just giving me hints? And she says, it's not the breakfast that he wants, it's the love that he wants. It's nurturing. He doesn't need you to cook. He just wants some nurturing. I said, oh. Now, as I say this now, especially Benzion, does this sound like obvious? It sounds very obvious, right? It's very, very, very obvious. But in a woman's mind, it's not always that. And in this woman's mind, it was not always that obvious, because resentment in a marriage can build in an instant, especially if you have 8 little kids and you're trying to eat breakfast and someone comes in and says, I'm really hungry. You'd be like, okay. So I said, oh, get this, Rivka Malka. It's not breakfast, it's love. You say, hey, I could really use some love right now. So I'm always up for love. So that changed it. It's like amazing. I love to make him breakfast. I love to make him whatever he wants. And I'm telling you that the women in the audience, they grabbed it. It was like it eased resentment. Oh, it's not like he's trying to get you to work for him. He really wants your love. So that is my practical story of a little shift that happened to me many years ago. And I hope that we could share a lot more shifts with you as we go.
Thank you, Rivka Malka. And I know also for Rabbi Klatsko, that was an awesome story. Rabbi Klatsko has lots of wisdom on marriage, on Torah Anytime, 10 Commandments of Marriage, and so much more. Please make sure to look him up. His words of wisdom are all over the internet.
Thank you.
And they're worth listening to also.
Yes. I wonder if we're going to end up going right into the 10 Commandments. We'll see. Okay, well, we're going to leave you on a cliffhanger, which is to say what's our very first class going to be about. Nobody knows. Not even us. But it's happening and it's important. We're on a mission together, folks. Thank you. Be well. You guys want to say goodbye?
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.